Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Juan's World. You'll see I'm in a slightly different location today. This is my kitchen because I'm going to be doing some cooking. And today that I'm making the video is actually Sunday, and Sunday this year, June 19th, is Father's Day. And so here's a picture of me with my infant son. And then many years later, when he and I were living together in Hong Kong, this photo was taken, but we then moved on to the mainland of China and lived in Kunming in Yunnan province for several years. Well, he's now doing a PhD at the State University of New York at Binghamton, and he's just moved into an apartment by himself. Last year he was living with a roommate, and he didn't like that situation very much. He didn't want to do any cooking. He just ate his meals out and went on with his work and so forth. But now he's got his own apartment, and he doesn't have his wife with him. She's still in China, and she's the household cook. And I've taught him how to cook, but it's not very important to him, so he's kind of forgotten. So I said, okay, I will help you. And so this video today is kind of in that vein, but it's also general for everyone. I'm going to make meatballs. I just went to the butcher and got some ground pork, and I'm going to show you how I make meatballs, and I'm going to make them into a kind of strange leftover sauce, which is from a Basque recipe that I did some time ago. If you may remember, it was Basque tongue and various other things. It's just a tomato-based sauce. You can get plenty of tomato-based sauces. I'll talk about that as we go. The main thing that you're going to need are minced something. Could be minced beef or minced pork or mixtures of different minced meats. Some breadcrumbs of some sort. Now I'm going to be using Japanese panko, but you could use pretty much any breadcrumbs you want. The seasoning that you want, some chopped shallots or chopped onions, or it could even be chopped leeks, but something in the onion family, and some seasoning of your preference. Just could be salt and pepper if you wanted to, or it could be oregano, or something a little bit more spicy, like cloves, whatever. I think I'm just going to use pepper, maybe some oregano, but probably not, because there's a lot of seasoning in the sauce that I'm going to be using. So anyway, let's get started down that path. So now we're going to get started. I've got my mixing bowl here. It's not a real mixing bowl. I have to do things in rather makeshift ways, but it'll work. Mixing bowl and a wooden spoon, and I've chopped one shallot into the mixing bowl, and then over here I've got my pork, which is about 250 grams. It's a quarter of a kilo, about half a pound. Got an egg. I forgot to mention the egg before, and then over here is my breadcrumbs or panko. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine all of these together, and then I'm going to saute them off. So let's get started with that. First step is to add the pork or the ground beef, whatever ground meat you're using. Let's just get it all in. Make sure it's all broken up properly, and that the shallots or onions, whatever you're using. If you're using an onion, I'd say for about this amount of meat, maybe half an onion chopped pretty fine. Now panko, you can use any breadcrumbs you want. You can even make your own if you want. I happen to like panko. I have it on hand because I use it in my frying a lot. I'm going to add just about the same amount as the meat, maybe a little bit less. There we go. And I'm also going to add 1 egg. Now you can see, I hope, that I've beaten the egg just a little bit. I don't want to put it in absolutely just completely unbeaten. Okay, now I'm going to combine everything into one mass. Doesn't take much, and honestly I've done this just by rolling up the minced meat without much of anything. But the thing is that the breadcrumbs and the egg help bind everything together. So you can see now that it's all combined into one. Now I'm going to roll into meatballs, and this really is up to you how big you want to make them. I tend to prefer rather smaller ones, but some people like nice big chunky macho ones. It's up to you. Anyway, I'll show you one, and then we'll get on with the business of frying. Alright, so you see I've got one in the palm of my hand. You can see roughly what size it is, and all I'm just going to do is just press it together to make a nice round meatball. Now, you know, if you're cooking for yourself, then the aesthetics is not really terribly important, but do this for all of the meat, and then get your pan smoking. A little bit of olive oil into the pan, get it good and hot, and then we'll start frying up. So here you can see the meatballs all bundled up. I put them on a plate. I'm going to let them rest for maybe 5-10 minutes whilst I get my pan ready, heated up, and then we'll go to work. So pan on high heat, little bit of extra virgin olive oil. Don't normally saute with olive oil because I don't normally want the taste of the olive oil in the food, but in the case of meatballs, well, yes I do. So alright, that's ready. I'm going to let it get almost to the smoke point, and then we're going to add the meatballs. And all I'm trying to do in this first phase is to brown the outside of the meatballs. They're going to cook in their sauce completely, but I just want them to just brown off. Okay, now try to keep them a little distance apart. And now just going to brown off the outside. And you can see they're browning off nicely already. And I need enough room in the pan so that I can roll them around like this and they're not too crowded. It's coming along really nicely. And once I'm satisfied that they're nicely browned on all sides, and you'll also see that they are firming up. I can't really show you that totally well on camera, but they were a bit mushy at the very beginning, but now they have they're firmed up because the egg and the panko are making them cohere. And now last step, which will be the final cooking process, is to add my sauce. So this sauce, as I mentioned in the opening, comes from a Basque recipe that I had. Okay, now I'm going to turn down to low heat, and I'm just going to let the meatballs cook. So I'll come back in a few minutes. So here's the meatballs simmering away in their sauce. And I'm going to leave them to cook for about 20 minutes, I would say, something on that nature for that size. If they were smaller, then they would cook quicker. But I want to make sure they're cooked all the way through. So I think about 20, maybe 25 minutes is about right. Now for the sauce, well, I'm using one that I had pre-made. If you want to, you can use a commercial tomato sauce that you can get at the supermarket. They have, or even just chopped up and mashed up tomatoes in their sauce. Add a little bit of oregano or something like that. That's good enough. I'll show you next time how to make a sauce from scratch. And meanwhile, when you're done, then you can serve these over any kind of pasta you want, spaghetti, linguine, macaroni, bow ties, fusilli, whatever you care. Just make a separate batch of pasta in another pot, and then when the pasta's cooked, then just serve the meatballs over the pasta. And remember one thing really, really important. This is not an Italian dish. Italians do not eat spaghetti and meatballs. That's a New York or Italian American thing that was decided upon by immigrants in New York. It has nothing to do with Italian cooking. They eat their pasta in one course, il primo, and then they eat their meat in their second course, il secondo. They don't eat the two of them together. Sometimes they will eat meat and rice together, like with ossobuco. But spaghetti and meatballs is not an Italian dish. Now, when I was all ready to go with this dish, the meatballs had pretty much cooked through. I didn't like the sauce too much. It was nice, it was very tasty, but there wasn't a lot of it. And it wasn't as chunky as I liked. So the first thing I did to make it a little richer was I chopped up some tomatoes and added them and cooked them down. And then at the tail end, there's something I do quite a lot. I chopped up a shallot and added it just so that the shallot would cook through for 3 or 4 minutes, not much more, but just enough that it was softened, but it still had all that brightness of taste. I do that with a lot of sauces and stews and whatnot. At the very last minute, just add a tiny bit of chopped onion, chopped shallot, maybe fresh herbs, just to add a little extra like perk to the sauce. And then I cooked some fusilli, and this is what I did at first. I took the sauce, no meatballs, just the sauce, which is the tomatoes and shallots and the tomato sauce, and mixed it all together with fusilli. This is Italian. This would be a first course in an Italian household, just pasta and sauce. And then the second dish would just be the meatballs. But in this case, I've combined the two, so I've got some meatballs added to the fusilli. And if you want, there's a lot of things that you can do as you serve. It should all be very hot, obviously, but you can have some grating cheese. I'm not a particular fan of grating cheese, so I don't do it. But the cheese from Parma, Parmesan, or Romano, or any of the hard grating cheeses would be fine. And Italians often also add some flaked red chili peppers, which I sometimes do myself because I like a little bit of spiciness. So there's your pasta and meatballs for Father's Day or for fathers and son cooking. If you like my videos, please like, please subscribe, and I will definitely on Friday see you to make tomato sauce for pasta. Probably 2 versions. I may make the bolognese ragu, which is unusual in that it has meat in it, or I may just make a plain tomato sauce, or I may make both. I don't know. Be ready and have a wonderful week.